Hey there, Jimmy the K with another installment of the Jimmy the K Show. I hope you're having a wonderful week this week. We got a few sports stories that we definitely want to share with you this week, and we're happy that you joined us this week. The first story I definitely want to look at is the fact that there was a story going around that the Houston Astros got a 0.0 television rating for the game that they played against the Los Angeles Angels. All I have to say is this is disgusting for an organization that has gotten screwed by Comcast. And you know, Astro fans for the longest time will tell you that it wasn't Comcast's fault. It was the previous owner's fault. Well, truthfully, to be honest with you, I think it was Comcast's fault. I think it was the last owner's fault of the Houston Astros. I think Comcast knew they could pull the wool over that last Houston Astros owner's eyes, and they sure enough did. And when they did do that, they turned around, filed for bankruptcy, said, hey, we're taking our money and we're going to run. We're going to have a good time. You know, so it's just really sad. It's really, really sad that the Houston Astros rating was that low. Granted, did that mean nobody was watching the game? No. That just means no one with their fancy software was actually watching the game. Speaking of the Astros are a team, in my opinion, that have a little ways to go to get over that hump. At last check, they were beating the Texas Rangers here on April 12th at about 9 o'clock, 8:55. They were beating them 5-3. So, you know, the Astros put on a clinic against Tanner Scheppers. Here's the big problem with Tanner Scheppers. I love the fact that Tanner Scheppers can pitch. Don't get me wrong. But is Tanner Scheppers the type of pitcher that should be a starter? You know, in my opinion, no. I don't think Tanner Scheppers should be a starter. I think Tanner Scheppers should go back to the bullpen along with Robbie Ross and go from there. That's what the Rangers need. They need help in the bullpen. By getting help in that bullpen for the Texas Rangers, the team gets a little bit better. I think Scheppers is better suited for the bullpen along with Robbie Ross. You know, am I saying by any means that this team has the ability or the agility to not pitch well? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that I feel if I were manager of the Texas Rangers, I would put Tanner Scheppers back in the bullpen when you get Kobe Lewis up. Matt Harrison comes back. You put, somebody else up. Derek Holland goes, and you put Robbie Ross back. This team has a lot of potential, but the potential is in the starting pitching. The starting pitching hasn't quite been there yet. At 5-5, they could very well go to 5-6 tonight against an Astros group that I feel very confident. And I've said this this is the third or fourth time I've said this on the Jimmy the K Sports Show, that the Astros could very well potentially be a top 10 or top 3 team in the AL West. Could they? Yes. Will they? I don't know. Here's the deal. The Astros have speed, they have agility, and they have some power. The pitching staff is all that lacks. I have to admit, last night's game, Yu Darvish versus Scott Feldman, former Texas Ranger, was an excellent pitching outing. You had Yu Darvish going 5 innings of perfect baseball, only giving up 2 hits the whole game. You had Scott Feldman coming out after his father passing a couple of days before and pitching lights out. And, an article that I read with the whole situation with Scott Feldman when he was interviewed, he said, that he would pitch against Texas on that Friday. And they were like, why? Why will you pitch against Texas? And Scott Feldman said, because my dad would literally wring my neck and kick my butt if he knew that I wasn't pitching on my regular schedule. Scott Feldman and his dad were close. For him to go out there last night and pitch the way that he did against Yu Darvish means a lot. Personally, in my opinion, I think what you're seeing from Scott Feldman in Houston is what we saw from Scott Feldman 3 or 4 years ago. And that's talent. The kind of talent that the Houston Astros need. He's not a number one, don't get me wrong. He's not a number one starter, but he's pitching like one this year. If there's anybody that can fix those TV ratings in the Houston Astros organization, it's the almighty Nolan Ryan. Right now, the front office of the Houston Astros is working closely along with Nolan Ryan to possibly hamper out a deal that will get this TV deal fixed. Because the truth of the matter is, the TV deal, when you see that Comcast aired a Los Angeles Angels game against the Houston Astros game and the rating was 0.0, again, like I said, 0.0 does not mean that there was nobody watching the game. Basically, what that means is no one with the big fancy equipment at their house was watching the game. So, it's very possible, 3,000 people were watching it, but they didn't have that fancy equipment to show that they were watching it. But even 3,000 people in a city of 2.5 million or billion or however many there is a lot of people and a lot of people. And when you have a 0 rating, something needs to happen. Something needs to happen from the front office to the TV staff to everyone meeting in the middle and saying, hey, we can't have this. We cannot have this as an organization. That's why Nolan Ryan, in my God honest opinion, was brought to the Houston Astros to help out a little bit. But mainly, in my opinion, I feel like he was brought in to help with the TV deal. A TV deal that is basically raw right now. A TV deal that needs to be fixed. And a TV deal that, in my opinion, I think within a year and a half, you will see a brand new TV deal with the Houston Astros. Comcast will be by the wayside. The Houston Astros will leave. They'll find another subscriber that will air them, that they'll work together, and you'll notice this team thriving a little bit more than what they are right now. Granted, for the team to be at 4-6 and the way they've played thus far this season, and somebody from Houston will be seeing this and going, the way they played the first 10 games, granted, the last 2 or 3 games, they hadn't gotten but 3 hits until tonight. I still have high confidence, like I've said. I've already said this multiple times, and I will continue to say this. And I will eat crow if I must, live here on the Jimmy the K Show. The Houston Astros could potentially finish in the top 3. And the reason I say this is the fact that the AL West is so hurt right now. The AL West, from Oakland to Los Angeles to Texas to Houston. Houston and Seattle, I believe, have a healthy lineup or a fairly healthy lineup. So you've got Oakland, Texas, and the Angels, whom I may add lost Josh Hamilton a couple of days ago to a torn ligament in his thumb. By losing him, they lose a little bit of pop in that bat, especially when he was starting to get a little bit of that pop back and be worth some of that 5-year, $125 million deal. So with that being said, the Astros need to work on their TV deal. And once that TV deal is done, I feel very, very confident that this team will start rising to the top. Although I see their rise to the top happening starting this year. Let's look at another sports story. This is actually a disgusting sports story. Excuse me. A sports story that kind of is one of those that I will probably get on a rant about. And it's of Colin Kaepernick, the 49ers quarterback, being investigated for sexual assault in Miami. Sexual assault in Miami. You know, reports came out that him and two of his buddies, a couple of wide receiver buddies, went to a hotel. This lady met them in the hotel. They were having a good time. She states that Kaepernick actually left. There was no sexual assault on his part. But the two wide receivers, she don't remember anything after that. Now for the rant. This is becoming more and more prominent in sports. More and more prominent because these guys get their heads on their shoulder. They get huge deals, huge contracts, and they feel like, in their opinion, that any court that they deal with will give them a slap on the wrist. And in most cases, they do. Because the judges don't want to give an all-time leading quarterback or a cool guy like Kaepernick or a really awesome guy like Michael Irvin jail time. They don't want to do that. They don't want to hurt their lovely Cowboy fan base, their lovely 49er fan base. They don't want to hurt the NFL's reputation. How about this? How about ruin their reputation? Because this kind of crap happening in sports is becoming more and more prominent, and I am sick and dang tired of it. Because of the fact that you've got these professionals out there that are playing the game right, and people like Kaepernick, Michael Irvin, Jose Canseco, Alex Rodriguez, smearing the names of their sport. And then, when they're called out about it, they lift up their shirts, they puff themselves up, and they're like, nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. You know, me and my lawyer, my agent are working on this. And I didn't do anything. I did not have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. Yeah, remember that, people? He did, didn't he? Sports players feel like they can do the same thing and get away with it. And it needs to stop. Too many kids, too many athletes look up to these players, and then when it's their turn, they do something off the cuff and dumb, and they feel like a judge is going to slap them on the wrist And that's going to be that. When honestly, the more and more I think about it, I love sports. And I hope that all the viewers watching this show, which my assumption is, that you love sports yourself. But I think more and more sports leagues need to take a bigger step. A bigger step forward and start banning these players indefinitely from that sport. Too many times, they want to give them their high and mighty labels. The NFL don't want to suspend them because they're a top seller for that team, which brings in money to the NFL. Remember that. If you're a San Francisco fan and you buy a Colin Kaepernick jersey, not only does the money go to Kaepernick and the 49ers, it goes to the NFL. Now, why in the world would they ban him or suspend him for a long period of time when they're making money from these freak shows? You heard me right. I called them a freak show. These guys join these leagues and they think it's a circus. They think because they have the money and the talent, they can do whatever they want. And here you go, A&M fans, you're probably going to throw me under the bus. But Colin Kaepernick and Johnny Manziel reminds me a lot of Kaepernick. Really stuck on himself. Look at me, Mr. High and Mighty. I'm Superman. I got a touchdown. Who cares? Frequently, I don't give a crap, Watson. We as sports fans need to demand more from our professional athletes. We need to demand higher standards from those professional athletes. Whether it be Kaepernick, Alex Rodriguez, Michael Young, Jose Canseco, Prince Fielder, Brian McCann, Yusel Puig, Hanley Ramirez, Giancarlo Stanton. We need to hold those guys higher in standards and call them out more often. It needs to happen. It needs to happen, and it needs to start happening now. Not next week, not next month, not next year, now. Why do we let our kids look up to these sports athletes knowing that they can and will in most cases disappoint? I'll tell you why. Because we're human beings. We're men. We're sports fans. We're athletes. We're sports watchers. We're sports casters. We're sports media. We want to see our kid grow up and thrive in sports because we know they can. So Colin Kaepernick needs to just step up, be a man, admit that he did wrong. And from there, from there, we'll do a show on Kaepernick apologizing. But until then, I'm going to call these athletes out until they start apologizing sincerely for what they've done wrong. One of the last stories that I definitely want to look at is a story that a lot of people will flip over, especially if you're Miami Heat fans. LeBron James of the Miami Heat publicly admitted a few games ago that Kevin Durant should be this year's MVP, most valuable player. You want to know something? I have to admit, LeBron James has class. LeBron James is a world-class athlete whom in most cases you would have never saw another player as high up and as many, you know, he could have very well easily said, I deserve it. You know, I've got 2 world championships behind me and a kid throwing a balloon in the air. And I deserve the MVP. But instead, he says, Kevin Durant's been the best, most consistent player this year. He deserves to be the most valuable player in the NBA this year. Now that's class. That's class from a high-end player that could have said anybody else deserved it, including himself. But instead took the high road and said, you know, the most consistent player this year has been Kevin Durant. He deserves it. Kobe Bryant would have never said anything like this. Never. He would have never said that anyone other than himself deserved the MVP. Do you think Kevin Durant deserves an MVP? Do you think Kevin Durant deserves an MVP? You know, in my opinion, I feel like Kevin Durant does. And for LeBron to state that he endorses Kevin Durant as class. And I appreciate people and high and mighty athletes like LeBron James for having class. I just went on a rant about Kaepernick. But, not Kobe, but LeBron James has world class. He deserves the Person of the Year award, in my opinion. One last sports story while we're at it. About 6 minutes left in the show. If you're a Dallas Stars fan, get ready and brace yourself for this news right now. It has been long awaited, and I believe the last time they made it was 2006. I could be wrong if you're viewing this. And no, send me an email. You know, through the email, send me a message through Facebook, or send me a message through Ustream if you follow me here. The Dallas Stars have clinched a playoff berth. How about that? How about that? The Dallas Stars are back in the playoffs. With one win, the Dallas Mavericks are in the playoffs. Uh-oh. That could be bad news for two other organizations. The Cowboys didn't make the playoffs. So, do the Rangers make the playoffs? We'll have to wait and see. It's a very long season, 162 games. So, after 10 or 11 games, you can't really go by stats or anything like that because there's still 150 games left. So, the Rangers may or may not make the playoffs. But in years past, when the Mavericks have made the playoffs and the Stars have made the playoffs, brace yourself, Ranger fans. You're not going to like this news. The Cowboys didn't make the playoffs. Neither did the Rangers. So that could be bad news on the Rangers' part. So congratulations to the Dallas Stars for making it to the playoffs, the NHL playoffs. Hopefully they'll go far. From what little bit I've been able to follow this year, they look like a pretty stout team, a team that can score goals when they need to. They have a couple of good players on the team that have helped move this team to that next level. So, with that being said, they'll go on to the playoffs. Hopefully, they'll make a long run. Maybe they'll end up in the Stanley Cup again. It'd be nice for the Dallas Stars to bring that back home to Dallas. But what I can tell you is with the Mavericks barely making a playoff, they only need one more win and they get into the playoffs. Well, with them barely getting into the playoffs, I don't see them making it past the first round. The Mavericks need a lot of work. They need offensive help. They need defensive help. Mark Cuban stated earlier this year that this was not a rebuilding year. He's going to have to reiterate or restate that because this team needs to rebuild and needs to rebuild bad because they're going to lose in that first round, guaranteed. Guaranteed they'll lose in the first round of the playoffs. If they make it, they only need one win. Let me check that for you as of right now. I will check that and let you know if they're making the playoffs. How cool is this? Technology with technology. Pretty cool, huh? Technology with technology. That could be a name of another show on Ustream that I do. Technology with technology. Wow, with 8 minutes and 45 seconds left in the game right now, Phoenix is up 85-84. So, if we were going by what we saw right now, the Mavs wouldn't make the playoffs until they won next game. Maybe. If the Mavs do make the playoffs, like I said, they'll lose in the first round. Guaranteed. Well, I'm Jimmy the K, and that was this week's show. I'm glad that you joined us. How about this? I'm going to have company next Saturday, and they should be here. We'll probably have to dump them in the back room, but I bet you, if I talk to somebody nice enough, we might have a special guest on the Jimmy the K Show. How would y'all like that? A sit-in guest on the Jimmy the K Show. We're going to probably have a few of those over the next couple of months, sit-in guests. Guests that we can chat with about certain sports. We'll have a good time. We'll probably talk a little bit about the Houston Texans next week. More than likely, we'll talk about their first-round pick, who he feels like they should go after. Maybe he feels like they should go after Johnny Manziel, and we could definitely have a good debate or chat over that. Remember, we start at 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time every Saturday night, and I will be on next Saturday, the 19th, Lord willing. Unless my child pops out then, I will be on next Saturday, 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time here on Ustream. Remember, 3 ways you can get a hold of Jimmy the K. You can email us, allaboutsportszone, one word, at gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, All About Sports Zone. Go to your search on Facebook, search All About Sports Zone. We should be that first one. Like us. Or if you're a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, message me through Facebook. Would love to hear from you. Your sports questions are welcome. I'm Jimmy the K, and until next Saturday, like I said, more than likely we'll have a guest and we'll have fun. I'm Jimmy the K. Peace out.